When I was a little girl, I knew that my granddad's favourite make of car was Honda, and those things stay with you, don't they? Now, it wasn't that I thought there was anything wrong with Hondas, it's just that my granddad drove them, and he also had a tendency to wear woolly jumpers with leather patches on the sleeves. As I grew up, I discovered that Honda made some exciting cars, things like the NSX and cars with the words Type R after their names. But the big Hondas, well, they still reminded me of my granddad. Great, well-made cars, but not for me. Until I had to drive the 1,500-mile round trip to the Geneva Motor Show in a 1999 Honda Legend. The Legend is one of those cars that never quite hit the mark. The last model was criticised for being out of its depth alongside Lexus and its European rivals. So Honda listened to those criticisms and went all out to make sure that the 99 Legend could hold its head high. The styling is very similar to that of the previous model. Any changes are subtle. The bonnet's more sculpted and the front wings are more sloping. Overall, the new car is both wider and longer. The new bumper houses the fog lamps and there are new light clusters on the back. The whole look is very elegant and I had quite a few admiring glances when I was behind the wheel. And no, they weren't just from elderly gentlemen in woolly jumpers. Inside the cabin, you couldn't exactly call the design exciting, but exciting isn't necessarily what you want in a luxury car. You want a feeling of quality, and quality is what you get here in the Legend. There's wood veneer and plenty of leather. Everything is functional and it's well laid out. But the best bit about in here are all the gadgets that you get to make those long journeys as comfortable as possible. Things like air conditioning, cruise control, and controls for the stereo that are mounted here on the steering wheel. And whilst we're on the subject of the stereo, this one with a CD changer in the boot is one that you can actually use as soon as you see it. You don't need to study the handbook for a week beforehand, which is very useful. And of course the Legend comes with a full electrics package and there is stacks of storage space. There's even a power socket hidden away in here. And where would we be without cup holders? There's plenty of space in here for both the driver and all the passengers, and if you flick this switch, it releases the catch to a huge boot. You can't complain about the levels of equipment that are all included in the price, which, by the way, is £34,100 on the road. As I said earlier, I've recently driven 1,500 miles in this car, and it wasn't the high levels of spec that made it so easy. I can honestly say I've never before truly appreciated how fantastic, comfortable and supportive seats were. Normally spending 7 or 8 hours behind the wheel of a car would leave you getting out with stacks of aches and pains, but I can honestly say I got out of the Legend at the end of the day and I felt fine. Another plus point for long journeys is the powerful 3.5 litre 24-valve engine. Its top speed is 140 miles per hour and 0 to 60 takes just over 9 seconds. Behind the wheel you can feel the changes that Honda have made. The steering used to be very light, but some subtle changes have made it far more positive and direct. The 4-speed automatic box responds well, and on the road the Legend really does feel surprisingly agile. But the best thing about being behind the wheel is cruise control. It's absolutely addictive. On long journeys, particularly on those long, quiet stretches of European motorway, all you need to do is set your speed, relax and sit back to enjoy the ride. And because this is a Honda, it's packed with safety features. Things like anti-lock brakes with electronic brake distribution, traction control, front and side airbags, 3-point rear seat belts and high-intensity headlights. This is one of those rare cars that makes the journey every bit as enjoyable as the arrival, and that's something that is now very important to me. Maybe I'm getting old. But I've got to say, my granddad has got great taste in cars. But the woolly jumpers with the leather patches? Nah, I'll stick to the Legend and he can keep those.